The Classic TV channel is your happy trails to golden oldies television from the 1940s through the formative years of the 1950s and 60s. Enjoy restored TV shows Mickey Rooney Show, Groucho Marx, Trouble with Father, Terry and the Pirates, One Step Beyond, Beverly Hillbillies, Bonanza, The Lucy Show, Dick Van Dyke, Annie Oakley, Ozzie and Harriet, The Howdy Doody Show, and many, many more. Binge your night away. So return with us now to those golden days of yesteryear.
A public defender is an attorney employed by the community and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until the issue is decided in a court of law. The first public defender's office in the United States was opened in January 1913. Over the years, other offices were opened. And today, that handful has grown to a network of lawyers cooperating to protect the rights of our clients. Now, here's a case I'd like to tell you about. It started one afternoon when a pretty but distraught young lady came into my office.
Mr. Matthews?
Yes?
You're the public defender. You've got to help me. Mark's in trouble, terrible trouble. He needs you, Mr. Matthews. He says he doesn't want an attorney, but please, please do something. Make him listen to you. Make him understand. You must, Mr. Matthews.
Now,
just promise me that you'll...
Just a minute, Miss...
Parker. Alice Parker.
Now, I know that you're greatly concerned, Miss Parker, but I can't promise anything until I know what this is all about.
Of course. I'm sorry. But don't you see, Mr. Matthews, he needs advice, or his whole life will be ruined.
Suppose you sit down and start from the beginning. Now tell me, who is Mark and what's his trouble?
Mark Collins. He's my boyfriend. They want to send him back to prison.
They?
I know I'm telling it all confused, but I'm confused. In fact, I never even knew until yesterday that Mark was a parolee. And when they arrested him and charged him with stealing money from the office, I was too shocked, too bewildered to say anything. Because Mark isn't a thief, Mr. Matthews. He's straight and fine. You'll know I'm right when you talk to him.
Then tell me, Miss Parker, why doesn't he want an attorney?
He's licked. Doesn't want to fight back. Thinks everyone's against him.
I see. Then Collins doesn't know that you've come to see me.
No. I haven't seen him. Not since he was arrested. I tried to, but... You are taking the case, aren't you, Mr. Matthews?
Well, from what you've told me, I'm very interested, and I would like to help. I'll talk to Collins. You have my promise. But I'm not sure you understand, Miss Parker. Though I'm available to anyone who might need me, I can't force my services. So if this boy should refuse...
He mustn't refuse.
Well, we'll see. Now, I may need your help, so please tell my secretary where we can reach you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
I immediately ran a check on Mark Collins' prison record. Some years before, he had gotten in with the wrong crowd, had too much to drink, and became involved in a robbery. A model prisoner, Mark had been paroled after 21 months. He had spent that time availing himself of a correspondence course in bookkeeping and accounting, determined to equip himself for a different sort of life. After learning all I could about Mark Collins, I called on him at the county jail. I'm Bart Matthews. public defender.
So?
I'm interested in your case.
Thanks.
I'd like to help you, Mark.
Don't kid me. I know what time it is. I'm getting a one-way ticket to the pen.
Is that the way you want it?
It's not the way I want it. That's the way it's going to be.
I can see that you need some advice. Someone to protect your interests.
Look, Mr. Matthews, I'm telling you that a guy with a prison record hasn't got a prayer. What do you care about my interests anyway?
That's my job. I took the oath of public defender to see that guys like you get a fair shake. That's your answer.
And my answer is I don't want a public defender. I don't want any lawyer. I just want to be let alone.
I don't believe it, Mark. I don't believe that you want to go back to prison. Not unless they've really got you dead to rights.
They haven't. I'm no thief.
Then stop being stubborn, Mark, and listen to reason. If you're innocent, I want to do everything in my power to get you out of this. That's a promise I made, and I'd like to keep it.
Promise?
Yeah. To a trusting young lady who believes in you.
Alice saw you about me?
She asked me to give you this note.
Dearest Mark, I would not be telling the truth if I denied that I was shocked to learn about your past. But that was the Mark Collins whom I never knew, and not the Mark Collins who is in my heart. So let's both forget the other one. I want you to know that I'll be waiting for you when you're free of this awful charge. So please listen to Mr. Matthews. Put yourself completely in his hands, for both your sake and mine. Alice.
Well, Mark?
What do you think, Mr. Matthews?
Good. Then Mark told me his story. Released from the state penitentiary and reporting to his parole board, he carried with him a fear that the stigma of ex-con would haunt and embarrass him always. But the parole officer assured him that no one need ever know that he had been a man with a number, except the employer that they had found for him. Mark was given an address, the Buy Right Appliance Company in the Exeter building. Conscientious and anxious to make a good impression, Mark was on hand bright and early. In fact, before anyone was around to open up.
Good morning.
Waiting to see someone?
I'm supposed to report to Mr. Marshall for work. I'm the new bookkeeper.
Oh, he must have forgotten to tell me. Won't you come in?
Thank you.
I'm Alice Parker, Mr. Marshall's secretary.
I'm Mark Collins.
Well, that'll be your desk, Mr. Collins. Why don't you try it for size? I suppose Mr. Marshall's explained about the book.
No, Miss Parker, I haven't even talked to him. See, took me on through the recommendation of a friend. It all happened so quickly, wish you'd brief me.
Well, Mr. Marshall's our branch manager. We have offices all over the state. We're agents for vacuums and all sorts of electrical appliances. Most of our customers are housewives who buy them on time.
Morning, Alice. Any messages for me?
I just got in, but there was a call for you late Saturday. Mike Clark left this number.
Thanks.
Want me to call him for you?
No.
Mr. Marshall?
I'm just one of the hired help.
This is Mr. Davis. Mark Collins has taken over Max's job.
I'm glad to know you, Collins. I hope you'll last longer than Max did. The old man is pretty rough to get along with.
You're doing all right.
Sure, because I'm not around him much. Just as long as I keep bringing in new clients and collecting a lot of the do-re-mi for 'em, I'm in solid. Which reminds me, I made quite a haul on Friday and Saturday. Check this, will you?
Don't most of the collections come in by mail?
Who are you kidding? I'm the boogeyman around here. I have to go out and scare it out of them. You missed the basket. You can't play on my team, fella.
Good morning, Mr. Marshall.
Morning, Alice. Hi, friend.
Morning.
You're Collins, I suppose.
Yes, sir.
Oh, come in. You know, young fella, I'm giving you quite a break. I hope you realize it.
Break?
Well, sure. I'm just accepting the word of the parole board that you'll work out. I never hired anyone like you before. I'm not so sure it's smart.
Mr. Marshall, if you have any qualms about me, I'll ask the parole board to place me somewhere else.
Oh, no. I gave my word. I'll keep it. Of course, the money's not much to start with, but I suppose the parole board has told you about that. But it's a consideration that's coming to me for giving you a break. Right?
Yes, sir. I suppose so.
The months flew by. Mark had fallen in love with Alice Parker, but could not bring himself to tell her about his past. He contented himself by asking her occasionally to dinner and an early movie, or catching little moments at the office.
Oh, thanks, Mark. I've been so busy I haven't had time to even think of lunch. I don't know what I'd do without you around here.
You mean you'd really miss me?
Yes, Mark. I'd miss you. And I'd miss a lot of other things. Like having dinner with you. These lovely roses.
Roses. Maybe once a week. What's that? I'd like to give you a lot more than roses, but I'm hardly making more than an office boy, and things the way they are.
Oh, Mark.
What I'm trying to say is that I'm crazy about you, Alice. I'd like to give you the whole world.
Well, what do you know?
Byrite Appliance Company. Just a moment, please. It's for you. It's that man again.
Tell him I'm still on vacation. Come on, be a good kid.
I'm sorry, Mr. Clark, but Mr. Davis is still out of town. Oh, you did? Well, he must have just gotten back. You're sure it was Mr. Davis? Well, just as soon as he checks in, I'll give him your message. It didn't work. He saw you driving out of the parking lot this morning.
I should have worn a long gray beard.
Who is this character? He's been phoning you off and on for months. What does he want?
He's a good-for-nothing brother-in-law of mine. Down on his heels. Broke. Don't let anybody tell you money is scarce, boss. Here's a little over $2,000 I managed to pry loose from our clientele.
Well, it's a swell job, Davis. That's a swell job. That's the way to make collections.
I always say every sawbuck counts.
And I say you're absolutely right. Here, Alice, check this, take it to the bank, and deposit it.
Today's a bank holiday. They're closed.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Well, put it in your cash box and make sure that your desk is locked.
You missed the basket again. You'll never make the team.
knew I had my work cut out for me. Mark told me that when the watchman regained consciousness, he immediately called the police. And in the investigation that followed, everything seemed to point toward Mark.
Cards are all stacked against me, Mr. Matthews. From that telltale paper cup lying on the floor to the fact that I was out with Alice that night and could have taken her key. And you add to that my prison record.
It won't help any, let's face it.
There was Mr. Marshall accusing me and digging up my past to the police. All I could see was Alice's face and feel her eyes looking through me like she was trying to figure out why I'd kept this from her. Wondering how much she could believe me when I kept saying I didn't do it. And she turned her back on me and started to sob. I was licked. I thought it meant that she didn't want any part of me anymore, that she felt she'd been cheated.
You know better now.
Yes, sir. I know better now.
You're wasting your time, Mr. Matthews. And you're wasting the taxpayers' money. Public defender? It's a mockery. If the city put that same money that it pays into your office into other things, street improvements, parks, better highways.
I can't say that I agree with you. If you knew how many acquittals our office secures...
And there's something wrong with the DA. Because innocent people don't get in trouble. Where there's smoke, there's fire. That's how I figure it. Oh, I'm not one for coddling criminals. Well, I made one mistake. Got soft taking this kid in here. I should have known better. Yes, Mr. Matthews, I say that once a con, always a con. And Mark Collins is proving it.
I had hoped that I might get you to withdraw the charge. After all, the evidence against the boy is purely circumstantial. If he were convicted, you might have a little trouble with your conscience.
I'm a very sound sleeper, Mr. Matthews.
Well, thanks anyway. Alice Parker proved to be my best source of information. My conversation with her brought out two things of importance: a name and a telephone number. The name was Mike Clark, the supposed brother-in-law of Fred Davis, and the number, Poplar 65992. I checked Poplar 65992 with the phone company. It was the number of the Crescent Bar, a second-rate joint down on 3rd Street. I called the police department and asked for one of their special investigators to come along with me. The patrons were typical. A furtive-looking little man sitting near the door seemed mildly interested in our entrance.
What'll it be, gents?
Make mine a beer. The same.
Coming right up.
Mike Clark around?
Who?
Mike Clark.
Never heard of him.
You sure you don't know Clark?
Sure, I'm sure.
Look, if you don't know Clark, why did he give this place as his phone number?
Did he? Oh, I don't know. Why didn't you ask him? Maybe he didn't take down the right phone number. Say, ain't I seen you someplace?
I don't think so.
You ever been in here before?
No, never.
Hello? Hello? Yeah. Yep. You know, I never go wrong on the face. And I've seen you someplace. I got it. You got a pal of mine out of a jam. I testified at the trial. Tom Finnegan, remember? The boys are trying to let him kick the rap for him.
Oh, you must have me confused with someone else.
Confused, my eye. You're the public defender. Who you kidding?
What's bothering him?
I don't know.
Open up, Clark. Let me out.
Find something?
Yeah, look at this, John. Might be just what we're looking for.
Davis, come in a minute, will you? This is Mr. Hanlon.
How you doing?
And Mr. Matthews.
Hi. Matthews, the lawyer who's defending Collins?
That's right.
If there's anything I can do for the kid, just let me know.
Okay, then. Now, we know that you've been playing the races and that you've owed Mike Clark, a bookie, several $100s for a long time. Now, can you explain to us how you came into that much money and paid him off early on Saturday morning?
Who told you that?
I suggest that you answer their questions, Davis. Where did the money come from?
Maybe I drew it out of the bank.
Maybe. We can check on that.
Or maybe you took it out of the cash box Friday night.
What are you trying to do, pin this thing on me? Well, you can't. The only thing I'm guilty of is owing a bookie some money, and I'm stalling him off till I can get enough to pay him off. Anything wrong with that?
I would say there's nothing wrong with it if you can explain to us where you were and what you were doing on Friday night.
The watchman says the robbery took place after 10. Where were you then?
I was home in my apartment, getting ready to turn in.
Sure you didn't drop off here first?
Are you trying to put words into my mouth? Of course I didn't.
Now, just a minute, Davis. You're only getting yourself in deeper. You know, Mr. Matthews, I was so sure that Collins stole the money that I never even gave a second thought to any other possibility. Just now it hit me like a flash. Davis wasn't home Friday night.
That's a lie.
Don't call me a liar, Davis. I tried to phone you a little after 10. No one answered the phone.
Now, it's very important, Mr. Marshall, that there be no mistake about the time of the call. How do you know it was a little after 10?
Well, you see, Friday nights I'm at home watching the television, the fights. Never miss them. You see, the main event goes on about 10 o'clock. Friday night was a quickie. Spider Kelly was KO'd in the first round. And right after that, I tried to get Davis.
Mind if I use your telephone, Mr. Marshall?
Sure, go ahead.
Hello, program information. I wonder if you could check last Friday night's fights and tell me what time the main event was over? Thank you. You're sure? I see. Thank you very much.
I was right, huh? Fights wound up a little after 10.
Your information helped a lot more than you think, Mr. Marshall.
Well, good. I'm glad I could be of any help.
This is a frame-up.
Frame up nothing. You're getting what's coming to you, Davis. Any man's a sucker that lets the horses get him.
I take it you don't play the horses, Mr. Marshall.
Never.
Really? Then how can you explain these papers that we found at the bookies?
Papers? What papers?
It's a statement of accounts owing Mike Clark. Seems that you owed him much more than Davis did. I think you'll find it was $1,816.
Now, look here. If you're meaning to insinuate that
It's more than an insinuation. You're being placed under arrest for stealing company funds. Unless you're clever enough to tell us how you saw those fights televised Friday night.
But I did see them.
Perhaps you read about the fights in the paper. But if you saw them, you must have X-ray eyes, because the station just informed me that they had microwave trouble and ran a film instead. You see, Hanlon and I were sure that Marshall was our man from the minute we picked up the papers at the bookies. We were only pretending that it was Fred Davis until we could get Marshall to trap himself, which he did. Oh, and one more thing. Channel 2 had no microwave trouble that night. The fights had been televised as usual. I knew that Marshall's alibi was a fake, so I did a little faking myself. I simply called my office, but pretended I was talking to the station. Well, it's time to be getting back to court. Mr. Marshall's due for sentence. And right after that, if you're wondering what this carnation is for, I'm going to be best man at the wedding of Alice and Mark Collins. What you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender. we congratulate Public Defender Cuff and his staff for outstanding achievement in the cause of justice.
Public Defender. The public defender is a public servant employed by you and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until they are proved guilty by law. I wonder how many times you and I have said after glancing at the headlines, "Too bad. I feel sorry for the man, but it could never happen to me." That's what Carl Hopkins would have said. He was an average man with an average outlook. He lived a narrow existence in a deep rut. Carl never had much to say.
Smells like rain. Hope Roberta got the wash in. I'm home, honey. I was right. Did you get the wash in? Paper says it's gonna rain. Those lost another one. Roberta, where are you? Guess she's mad about this morning, giving me the silent treatment. A husband and wife are entitled to an argument once in a while. Maybe she's getting the wash. Roberta, you out there? Women. Always getting their feelings in an uproar over nothing. Burnt. Now we'll have to eat out. If there's anything I hate, it's to eat out. The prices they get nowadays. Maybe she's putting on her face. I guess I never will understand women. Baby, I'm sorry about what happened this morning. Roberta. They'll think I did it. They'll think I shot her. I gotta get out of here. They'll say I did it. I didn't do it. I gotta get away. Put it on the table. Drop it. Yours? I wasn't here. I didn't shoot her. Front door locked? I don't know. You gotta believe me. Inside. Sit down there. Thanks. That him? Yeah. Did you find anything? He had his gun on him. Take a look in there. I'll stay with him.
Can we come in now? I told the other policeman Henry was just getting over a cold and that he shouldn't be out in the night
Sorry,
air.
but you'll have to wait outside. Regulations.
Well, I don't see what harm it'll do. After all, you wouldn't even be here if I hadn't heard the shots and called you.
We appreciate your cooperation.
Knew right away what had happened. Been expecting it for months. She is dead.
I suggest you wait at home. We'll call you when we need more information. Mrs.
The name's Bell. Myrtis Bell with an E.
Yes, Mrs. Bell.
Look at him sitting over there blubbering. And after what he's done. What's he got to be crying for?
I don't know. How would you feel if you just shot your husband?
Yeah, of course, put him on. Yes, Harris? They did, huh? No other prints? Good. Send one of your boys over with the report. You know who that was, Mr. Hopkins? Lieutenant Harris, head of the police crime lab. You know what he told me? That your wife died from 2 bullet wounds received from your gun, and that on the gun there were 2 sets of fingerprints, yours and your wife's.
I don't know. Maybe she shot herself.
Really? Which hand does he claim he found the gun in?
He said it was the left hand.
Check your notes.
Yes, sir. Yes, I have it. Mr. Martin, what did you see when you entered the bedroom? Mr. Hopkins, Roberta was lying across the bed, face down. I thought she was crying. I went over to the bed. She didn't move. I rolled her over. There was a gun in her left hand.
That's enough. That's enough. You see, Mr. Hopkins, her left hand. Your own words, right?
I guess so.
Will you then tell me how it was possible for her to shoot herself in the right side, under the ribs, holding the gun in the left hand, and have the bullets travel upward through the lungs and the heart and stop in the left shoulder?
I don't know. Why should I shoot her?
Mr. Hopkins, when you're arraigned in Superior Court, do you know what you'll be charged with? Murder in the 1st degree. And do you know what your sentence will be when found guilty? Death, Mr. Hopkins.
But you can't.
On the other hand, if you will admit your guilt and throw yourself on the mercy of the court, I will make a recommendation for leniency. At the very worst, your sentence would then be life imprisonment.
But how can I say I did it when I didn't?
By avoiding a long and involved trial, the state will be spared untold expenses. Now, this could all act in your favor.
I don't understand. What do you want me to say?
Just tell us how and why you shot your wife. It's as simple as that. What is it? Well, tell him the district attorney is out of town and I don't want to... What? Whose client?
My client, Mr. Martin. Oh, I'm sorry to break in on your meeting.
Since when is he your client?
Well, Judge Nunley's clerk phoned me to be at the preliminary tomorrow. Now, you know as well as I do that this man can't afford an attorney. And what difference will one day make?
You're a lawyer?
Yes, sir. I'm Bart Matthews.
Well, I haven't got any money. I couldn't pay you.
You don't have to. The city supports the public defender's office.
Public defender? I never heard of that.
Well, your boss had. He's the one who phoned Judge Nunley.
All right, Matthews, if you're through, you can leave. I'd like to get a statement from this man.
Statement? What statement?
He said if I'd tell him I shot Roberta, he'd get me off with life.
All I'm trying to get from him is why he did it.
But I can't do that. I'd be lying.
Martin, when is the DA due back?
He didn't tell me.
Now, this means that you'll handle the case?
That's right.
And this will be your first important case since your appointment, won't it?
What are you driving at?
Oh, nothing. Except that I'll try to make things as easy for you as I possibly can.
Easy?
Yes, so that you can have your statement, Martin. Quote, not guilty, unquote. Come on, Mr. Hopkins.
Now, see here, Matthews.
As his attorney, that's all I want him to say. You know, Hopkins, I don't think I can put up your bail, but I'm quite sure that I can get the chief jailer to hang a do not disturb sign on your cell. All right, let's go.
Now I ask you, how can I see who's coming and going and serve up supper at the same time? This'll look right nice on Angie, don't you think?
Oh, yes, very. Now, Mrs. Bell, what makes you think that Hopkins was home that night?
Roberta told me once, she told me 100 times. Every night, home at 6. You could set a clock by him.
But why would he want to kill her?
Why would any husband want to kill his wife?
Henry, smoke your cigarette. I'll answer the questions. I'll tell you why. It was fight, fight, fight every waking hour of the day. Never surprised me none when it happened.
Mr. Hopkins said that he gave her everything that he earned.
Well, she sure never spent her money on clothes. Never saw a woman dressed so poor. Oh, I'll get it. It's probably the newspapers again. Henry, get the man a glass of cider. It's good and fresh. You'll like it.
Well, would you, Mr. Matthews?
No, thanks. I'll have to be going.
Say, maybe you want to talk to Grandpa before you leave.
Grandpa?
Mrs. Bell's father. He's in the back bedroom, and kind of an invalid.
I think that would be a very good idea.
Forget the cider, Henry. Mr. Matthews is leaving.
But I haven't finished my...
You're finished as far as we're concerned. Here's the door.
I'm sorry if I said anything.
You're working for the defense, ain't you?
That's right.
Well, we're working for the prosecution.
Was that Mr. Martin who called?
That much I'll tell you, yes. And he said... Henry, you listen to this. And he said we wasn't to talk to nobody connected with the defense.
But I only wanted to talk to your father for a minute.
Grandpa? He couldn't help you none.
Why not?
But he ain't seen anything for 20 years. He's blind.
Why? Conrad Martin had started his counterattack. Everywhere in the neighborhood, I got the same answer. No statement for the defense. My last stop was the Hopkins house. Oh, hello, Davis. What are you doing here?
Captain assigned me here.
Hopkins gave me his key. I'd like to take a look around.
I'm sorry, Mr. Matthews, but I can't let you in.
Who told you that?
Captain. I'd like to help you, but
Oh, I know, Davis. It's not your fault.
Besides, I don't know what you'd find new inside. The lab boys gave the place a good going over, top and bottom.
Did they look around back?
What would they be looking for out there?
That's a good question. Maybe I'll find a good answer.
You big tall feller, ain't you, stranger?
Huh? Are you talking to me?
That clothes drying kept you from falling, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, you're talking in the wrong direction. I'm over here.
Oh, hi. You must be Mrs. Bell's father.
That's right.
How did you know that I was new around here?
Oh, Murty's told you about me, huh?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean...
Don't bother me none. I've still got mighty good ears. Minute you started back here, I could tell you was a stranger.
How could you tell?
By the way you walked. I said to myself, wait till he hits that bit of broken concrete. They all do. And you did.
That's right.
Say, did you hear about the shooting last night?
Shooting?
Yep. I was sitting right here listening to the radio. Saw the whole thing.
You saw it?
Well, you know what I mean. Mighty good set of ears.
Did you tell anybody?
Nope. Nobody asked me. But I heard these shots, and then about 2 minutes later, I was sitting...
Grandpa, who you talking to?
Here she comes.
Oh, it's you, is it? I thought I told you to leave us alone.
What's he done, Murty's?
He's the man that Mr. Martin told us we couldn't talk to. I'm coming in and close your windows.
I'm sorry, mister. I thought I'd found a friend.
Yes, so am I, Grandpa. I thought I'd found an alibi. Conrad Martin was a man young in years and young in experience. He didn't intend to lose this case. Not only did you tell Mr. and Mrs. Bell and everyone else to withhold information, but then you give orders to keep me out of my client's house.
I'm completely within my rights, Matthews.
Your rights? I'd like to know what gives you the right to tell witnesses what to do. They don't belong to you any more than they do to me.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm quite prepared. I think this will give you the answer. In the case of the People versus McCallum, Judge Dean of the Superior Court handed down the following opinion, that...
I'm not interested in Judge Dean's opinion. Now, whether you know it or not, there's a Supreme Court ruling that states that a witness is in the public domain, and as such belongs exclusively to neither the prosecution nor the defense.
Supreme Court?
That's right.
Where did you look that up?
I didn't have to look it up. I learned it in law school. Oh, and another thing, there's a matter of ethics.
I withhold comment.
Do you mind if I ask you a simple question?
That all depends.
What are you trying to prove?
I'm going to win this case.
Even if Hopkins is innocent?
He's guilty, and you know it.
The evidence looks pretty circumstantial, if you ask me.
I didn't ask you.
Then I'm telling you. Now, Conrad, I've seen a lot of eager beavers so anxious to win a conviction that they lose their case.
What do you mean?
I mean that it's your job and mine to see that people like Hopkins get a fair shake.
Was Hopkins fair when he pumped 2 bullets into his wife?
You're taking an awful lot for granted when you haven't even talked to a key witness.
Witness? What witness?
Why don't you wait until we get into court? You'll find out then.
Wait a minute.
What for?
I had a couple of questions.
I thought you had all the answers.
Look, Bart, I've got a tough job to do. The DA's away, and I feel it's my full responsibility to
see that Hopkins gets a fair trial?
Well, yes.
All right, then, get your hat. I've got a witness I want you to meet.
Oh, you come back. Marquis ain't going to like that.
I wouldn't worry about that, Grandpa. It's all been taken care of.
Don't want her coming in here closing the window again. Can't see what's going on. Who's your friend? Never seen him before.
Didn't you say he was blind? How did he know I was here?
Simple. He saw you.
He ain't as tall a man as you be, Mr. Matthews, and he's heavier set.
That's right, Grandpa. I wonder if you'd tell us what...
Mr. Matthews, if you want me to call the police, I'll...
That won't be necessary, Mrs. Bell.
Oh, Mr. Martin. Well, I was only doing what you told me to.
Grandpa, a while back you started to tell me that you heard something right after the 2 shots.
Just a second. Murtish, can I talk now?
You can talk now.
Well, sir, I was sitting right here listening to the news on the radio when I heard the 2 shots. First off, I thought they'd got the announcer. But when he kept talking, I knew it wasn't him.
Go on.
Then, a couple of minutes later, I heard the screen door on Hopkins' back porch open and slam with a bang. And somebody come a-roosting down the back stoop. Oh, he was in an awful hurry. I knew he'd never been around here before because he hadn't gone more than 2 steps when he ran smack dab into the clothes pole.
Did he say anything?
Yep. Said, ouch.
Did you say anything?
Nope. He was off and around back before I could get a word out.
Why didn't you tell this story before?
Nobody asked me but Mr. Matthews, and Murky shut him up.
Are you sure that wasn't Mr. Hopkins who came down those stairs?
Why, of course I'm sure. First place, I know Mr. Hopkins. In the second place, Mr. Hopkins would know that pole was there and duck under it.
Now where do we go?
Well, I'd call the crime lab.
What for?
Has that pole been checked for fingerprints?
I don't know. Why would they come out here in the first place?
Last night they didn't have a reason. Now they have. When the closed pole was dusted, Lieutenant Harris found 3 prints. Enough for identification, but not enough for positive proof in court. This meant that when we found the suspect, we'd have to prove his guilt some other way. A run was made through R&I. We learned 3 things. That the prints belonged to a man named Victor Breslow. That he was on parole, which made him easy to find. that he had a long record and a short memory.
I tell you, I was never in that bedroom before. Or this living room. Or this house, or this neighborhood.
You say you've never seen this woman before, Mr. Breslow.
I've never seen her, no.
How can you explain your fingerprints on that clothes pole in the backyard, then?
I told you. I don't know what you're talking about. Can I go now?
Sit down. Relax, Breslow. Mr. Matthews may be a few minutes yet.
What's he doing?
He's next door talking to the man who saw the killer escape.
Man, what are you trying to give me?
Old fellow in a wheelchair. He says he can identify the man.
Oh, yeah?
You always keep your hat on in the house?
Well, it's cold in here.
You can run him through any time you want. Grandpa's ready.
Well, it's about the same time and about the same amount of light. All right, Breslow, on your feet.
What do you want me to do?
All you have to do is run out the door, down the steps, and into the backyard. Just run down the steps and around to the driveway.
Run. It's dark out there. I might break my neck.
You might save it. Davis, you stay with him. I'll tell you when.
Yes, sir. I think you're nuts.
Make it a good performance, Breslow. It may be your last. You all set, Grandpa?
Never been sicker.
Watch him when he comes out. He may try to make a break.
I'll keep him covered.
All right, Davis. On the double, Breslow.
Just a minute, Breslow. Do you call that running? Now do it again, and this time run.
All right, Davis. Send him out again.
Well, Grandpa?
That's him, all right. Only this time he hit the clothes pole with his hand instead of his head.
You're right, Grandpa.
That's him, all right. Same feller I seen t'other night.
What's he babbling about?
Put the cuffs on him.
What for? I didn't do nothing.
Hold out your hands.
I want you to be sure, Grandpa. Will you swear that this is the same man?
Don't need to swear. I said it's him, and it is.
Well, Breslow?
It was an accident. I didn't want to kill her, honest.
Not when you were doing so well blackmailing.
You find that out, too?
It figured. How long had you been doing it?
Oh, a couple of years. She didn't have any money the other night. I said I'd tell her husband how she'd spent 2 years in the state pen. She pulled a gun on me. I tried to take it away from her. It went off. I wiped the gun clean and ran out the back. That's it.
Yeah. You kind of feel better after getting it off your chest, son?
Well, if it hadn't have been for you, they'd have never pinned it on me.
All right, take him in and book him.
Oh, just a minute. Conrad, I think that confession is good for the soul, don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, before Mr. Breslow departs, don't you think that he ought to know about the man who put the finger on him?
What about him?
Well, take a good look at your accuser. Do you see anything?
Nope.
Neither does he. He's been blind for the last 20 years.
Blind? Why, you dirty... You trapped me.
No, you trapped yourself.
Want to thank you for your help, Grandpa.
Glad to help you. Sort of broke the monotony.
Nice old guy.
He sure is.
Bart, I'd like to thank you, too.
Oh, what for?
Oh, for helping an eager beaver see a couple of things. But I hope you didn't let yourself in for something.
I don't understand.
Supposing Breslow is broke.
So?
So if he can't afford an attorney, you'll have to defend him.
Take care of yourself, Mr. Matthews. And drop by again sometime.
Yeah, thanks, Grandpa. I will. When Victor Breslow was brought to trial, he was found guilty. But since the shooting was not premeditated, the charge was changed to manslaughter. He is now serving a sentence in the state penitentiary. The case you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender.